Hey all, and welcome to Anime Octopus. Today, we're diving into a fun what-if scenario. What if Naruko had the combined intelligence of both Minato and Kushina? How would that change her journey, her growth, and the entire Naruto storyline? Quick disclaimer, this channel is all about entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. Full credit goes to the amazing original creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's dive into it. Let's go, guys. Excited voices and occasional yells echoed through the quiet waiting area of a secret underground chamber, where a young, blonde-haired girl and an older, white-haired man sat together. The girl's long, spiky hair mirrored that of her father, and her bright azure eyes focused anxiously on the door ahead. She wore a dark blue, short-sleeved top with a red spiral design in the center, paired with black pants and matching sandals. She was only 4 years old, and her name was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruko, the daughter of Namikaze Minato, the fourth Hokage, and Uzumaki Kushina. Seated beside Naruko was her godfather, Jiraiya, renowned as one of the legendary Sannin and known affectionately as the Toad Sage. They were in a secretive location known only to a trusted few, waiting anxiously. The reason for their presence? Kushina was expecting another child, and today was the day Naruko would become a big sister. The two waited patiently, expecting either Minato or Tsunade to return with news. Suddenly, a cry rang out, followed by Minato's startled exclamation. Though Naruko wasn't sure what was happening, Jiraiya instantly stood and rushed toward the chamber ahead. As he entered, a tense scene met his eyes. A mysterious cloaked figure was holding Naruko's newborn sister, a kunai pressed alarmingly close to her. On the other side of the room, Minato and Tsunade stood protectively in front of Kushina, who looked exhausted but alert. "Minato? What's going on here?" Jiraiya demanded, deeply concerned, though Minato remained focused on diffusing the situation. "Please, let's keep this calm. There's no need for conflict," Minato said gently to the intruder. "I am calm," the cloaked figure replied sharply. In the blink of an eye, the intruder tossed the baby into the air and moved as if to strike. But Minato moved faster, appearing beside the child and safely retrieving her before vanishing in a flash, using his unique technique to transport them to a hidden safe house. He left Tsunade and Jiraiya behind to protect Kushina and confront the threat. Tsunade rushed forward with a punch aimed at the cloaked stranger, but her blow passed harmlessly through him, as if he were made of mist. Jiraiya followed up with a powerful energy strike of his own, but he too met the same result. "Humph. I expected more from the two of you," the cloaked figure said coolly before dashing toward Kushina. Just as his hand reached out, he phased through her again. Tsunade had attempted a surprise strike from behind, but it missed as well. Unfazed, the intruder formed hand signs quickly and pointed toward Tsunade and Kushina. "Fire style, great fireball jutsu," he declared, releasing a massive sphere of flame that shot toward them. Before Jiraiya could react, another voice rang out. "Water style, water wall jutsu," shouted Naruko. A surge of water erupted from her mouth, creating a solid barrier between her mother, godmother, and the incoming flames. The fire met the water and sizzled out harmlessly. Without hesitation, Naruko pulled out a kunai and hurled it at the intruder. As expected, the blade passed through him, but in a clever move, she swapped places with the kunai mid-flight and appeared in front of the man, landing a punch squarely on his head. To everyone's astonishment, this time the attack connected. The cloaked figure paused in disbelief, clearly surprised that the punch hadn't phased through. But then he quickly responded with a powerful uppercut that sent Naruko flying backwards. The impact left her stunned, and as she fell, everything around her blurred. Her final glimpse before her vision faded was the mysterious figure reaching for Kushina. In a swirl of energy, the two vanished together. 1 year later. A full year had passed since one of the most challenging and unforgettable days in the history of Konoha. 12 months ago, the mighty Kyubi no Yoko, known as one of the most powerful of the tailed beasts, launched an attack on Konohagakure no Sato. The village faced great difficulty in protecting itself during this crisis. Among those affected, there were 3 individuals especially dear to Naruko. The first was her mother, who bravely aided in sealing the Kyuubi and offered her strength until the very end. The second was her father, who made a great sacrifice to shield the village, using a powerful sealing technique to contain the Kyuubi. Lastly, Naruko's younger sister was deeply affected by the overwhelming presence of the Kyuubi. Despite her strength, she became unwell due to the intense energy surrounding the event. Even after a year, Naruko carried these memories with her, honoring the courage and love that shaped her path forward. 1 year had passed since Naruko experienced the loss of her family, and the pain still lingered in her heart. Everything she cherished had changed in a single night. Her parents had bravely protected the village by sealing the powerful beast, and her younger sister, whom she had eagerly waited to meet, was taken away due to the same incident. Her godfather was rarely present, constantly traveling to maintain his vital spy network, especially since the Hidden Leaf village had become more vulnerable. Her godmother had taken on the important role of leading the hospital and was often too busy to spend time with her during those difficult days. Even her grandfather figure, Hiruzen Sarutobi, had returned to the role of Hokage and was now responsible for both the well-being of the village and his own family. Despite all of this, Naruko refused to let sorrow control her life. She understood that tears alone wouldn't change anything. From that moment on, she made a promise to herself: she would grow stronger. She began training whenever she could, physically preparing her body, practicing new taijutsu forms, learning fresh ninjutsu techniques, studying Fuinjutsu through her parents' notes, and reading everything she could about what it meant to be a true ninja. She did all this because every time she reflected on that fateful night, she came to the same realization: she hadn't been able to help. She felt powerless. And that was something she never wanted to feel again. That drive to improve kept her focused every day. She also had support from someone she admired, a Jonin who was like an older brother to her. He offered valuable advice and helped guide her growth. Now, Naruko found herself sitting in a classroom surrounded by students who aspired to become shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. Though she wouldn't call herself unfriendly, she had trouble remembering the names of her classmates. Many of them, however, knew exactly who she was, the daughter of the fourth Hokage. Naturally, that led to a small group of admirers, but Naruko preferred to keep a low profile for now. As their sensei entered and began teaching a lesson on the village's history, Naruko quietly leaned back in her seat. She had already mastered the material, every test she had taken resulted in a perfect score. Knowing this, even the teacher didn't expect her full attention during the lecture. Closing her eyes, Naruko began to revisit the memory of the night the nine-tailed fox appeared. She did this often, not to dwell in sadness, but to analyze and understand. The mysterious figure cloaked in shadows fascinated her deeply. The ability to move through solid objects, including attacks and walls, was unlike anything she had seen before. If she could understand it, maybe one day she could replicate something similar, to always be there when it mattered most, to protect the ones she loved. But to even attempt something like that, she needed to master more about Fuinjutsu. For now, she reminded herself, the foundation was what mattered. The basics came first. Summer arrived early in Konoha this year. The sun beamed warmly over the village, and the gentle breeze did little to ease the rising temperatures. It was a bright Sunday afternoon, and the sun stood high above the Hidden Leaf village. While many students from the Konoha Ninja Academy took the opportunity to enjoy a break on the academy training grounds, one particular blonde girl stayed behind at home, or more accurately, at her family's private training area. This secluded field was carefully protected by various seals, making it invisible to anyone outside. Naruko, dressed in a simple pair of black shorts and traditional shinobi sandals, lay on her back, breathing heavily with her eyes closed. At 5.5 years old, the young academy student had just completed another intense training session. Over the past 6 months, Naruko had been studying her father's unique taijutsu technique, the hummingbird style, which emphasized lightning-fast, pinpoint-accurate movements. The challenge, however, was that while Naruko was already impressively quick for her age, mastering the required speed for this style was still a work in progress. To overcome this, she began wearing specially designed gravity seals created by her father, which helped her gradually improve her agility and reflexes. Thanks to her Uzumaki heritage, Naruko's natural resilience allowed her to train daily without overexerting herself. With this in mind, she came up with a clever plan. Rather than splitting her focus between school and training, she used a shadow clone to attend the academy in her place, allowing the original Naruko to fully dedicate her days to self-improvement. As she rested on the grass, Naruko reflected on everything that had unfolded over the past few months. Her early training with her parents, Minato and Kushina, combined with her current discipline, had placed her consistently at the top of her class. In fact, there was no one among her peers, or even the senior students, who could match her skills. Even Uchiha Itachi, who had already graduated by the time Naruko joined the academy, had been one of the few who came close. Naturally, Naruko's talents did not go unnoticed. Her achievements gained her admiration from many classmates, earning her a number of fans who looked up to her. Thanks to being the most outstanding student in the entire academy, Naruko quickly earned the titles of prodigy and genius. Of course, only a few truly understood the subtle difference between those labels. A child prodigy accomplishes tasks that are typical for others, but at an exceptionally young age. A genius, on the other hand, is someone who achieves things that very few can do at any age. In Naruko's opinion, she didn't consider herself a genius, certainly a prodigy, yes, but not quite a genius. Naruko wasn't fond of how some villagers would compare her so casually to her father, who was also known as a genius. During a recent grocery trip, she overheard a few Chunin discussing the talents of the Uchiha prodigy. That sparked Naruko's curiosity. Intrigued by the idea of another young prodigy, she asked the Chunin about the Uchiha they mentioned. Unfortunately, she was informed that the talented Itachi had already become a Genin and was rarely seen outside of missions or training sessions. Realizing she likely wouldn't run into him anytime soon, Naruko simply shrugged and returned to her own training. After all, their paths were bound to cross eventually. Clearing her mind, Naruko headed inside to take a shower, gathered a bit of money, and stepped out for lunch. A few minutes later, she was walking down the streets of Konoha with her hands tucked in her pockets. She now wore a black t-shirt featuring the Namikaze clan's crest on the back. As she passed a nearby shop, a familiar voice caught her attention. Curious, Naruko entered what turned out to be a Dengo shop. Looking around, the blonde academy student spotted Kakashi seated with 5 other teenagers. Just as Naruko was about to leave, Kakashi called out to her and waved, inviting her over to join the group. As she approached, Naruko observed the others at the table. They all looked around Kakashi's age, around 15. The first was a young man with a bowl-cut hairstyle, dressed in green spandex under a Chunin vest, with his forehead protector worn as a belt. With black hair and matching eyes, he perfectly matched the description of Might Guy, the Anbu's closest friend and spirited rival. Next was another male ninja with black hair and brown eyes. He wore the standard Konoha uniform with the sleeves rolled halfway up, a Chunin vest, and a forehead protector tied around his forehead. A cigarette rested in his mouth, and he had a few noticeable chin hairs. He was Sarutobi Asuma, the son of the third Hokage and one of the rare wind release users in Konoha. Then there was a kunoichi with long raven black hair and striking red eyes, complemented by red lipstick. Wearing a standard uniform with a Chunin vest, she was the up-and-coming genjutsu specialist, Yui Kurenai. Another young woman in the group had violet hair tied into a spiky ponytail and light brown eyes with no visible pupils. Her outfit included a fitted mesh bodysuit under a tan overcoat, a dark orange miniskirt, and gray shin guards. This was Mitarashi Onko, a former apprentice of one of the legendary Sannin, Orochimaru. The last in the group was slightly older, around 18. He had shoulder-length brown hair, brown eyes, and wore his forehead protector like a bandana. Dressed in a Jonin vest and holding a senbon in his mouth, he was Shiranui Genma, a trusted bodyguard for important dignitaries visiting Konoha. "Yo, Naruko. How's it going?" Kakashi greeted, his eyes still scanning the pages of a book, while the group made space for the academy student and offered her a warm welcome. "Not much, just stepped out to grab a bite," Naruko replied cheerfully, placing her order for Dengo. Conversation resumed, but Kurenai soon turned toward her with a thoughtful look. Shouldn't you be at the academy, Naruko-chan? Kurenai asked curiously. Naruko smiled and shook her head. Technically, I am. Well, my shadow clone is attending classes while I train. I figured it's more efficient that way. Her answer left everyone surprised, except Kakashi, who looked amused. You can really use shadow clone jutsu and continue training on your own? Anko asked in disbelief, amazed that someone so young could perform such an advanced technique with such ease. How many shadow clones can you create, Naruko-san? Genma asked, intrigued. Naruko beamed. I can create 6 and still keep training like normal. But if you're asking about the most I've ever made, that would be 14. She tilted her head slightly, smiling with her eyes closed. The gesture made Kurenai giggle softly in delight. How adorable! The Chunin exclaimed, causing everyone's attention to shift toward her. Naruko blushed with embarrassment and quickly averted her gaze, prompting light laughter around the table. Yosh! Naruko-chan's passion burns brightly. We must one day have a friendly spar to ignite our youthful spirits even more. Guy proclaimed enthusiastically, thrusting his fist into the air, while those seated around him sighed in amusement. Naruko let out a small, sheepish laugh, sweat dropping at Guy's intensity. Hey there, do you know your chakra nature? Asuma asked casually, exhaling a puff of smoke. Naruko looked thoughtful for a moment, then shook her head. The Namikaze heiress watched curiously as Asuma pulled out a small slip of chakra paper and handed it to her. Focus your chakra into this, the easygoing Jonin instructed. As Naruko channeled her energy into the paper, it first crumpled into a small ball, and just as Kakashi was about to explain the result, the paper unexpectedly became damp, causing the entire group of shinobi to stare in surprise. This girl has 2 chakra natures. Anko exclaimed, catching the attention of a few nearby villagers and fellow ninjas. That seems accurate, Kakashi murmured to himself, though Genma overheard. What do you mean, Kakashi? Asked the oldest shinobi in the group, prompting Kakashi to offer his trademark I smile. I could tell you, Kakashi began, causing the group to lean in with curiosity. But? They asked in unison. But? It's a secret, he finished with another cheerful I smile, prompting a collective groan from the group. They continued chatting and enjoying their meal, but after about 30 minutes, Naruko decided to return home to continue her training. 6 months later, Konoha Academy. In the Hidden Leaf Village, children aspiring to become shinobi begin their journey at the Ninja Academy. Clan children typically start at age 7, after spending a year training with their families, while non-clan students often begin at age 6. However, there are always exceptions, some join earlier due to extraordinary circumstances or abilities. Notable examples include Hatake Kakashi, Uchiha Itachi, Namikaze Naruko. Students spend 6 years at the academy, mastering the basics and preparing themselves for life as shinobi. Not everyone passes, some students are unable to meet the rigorous demands. Still, among them, a few excel and are granted early graduation. Such prodigies include Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Kushina, Namikaze Naruko. Now 6 years old, Naruko wore black pants and a long-sleeved black shirt adorned with the Namikaze crest on the back. Her forehead protector, tied with a sleek black cloth, sat proudly across her brow. She was seated in a classroom of 12-year-olds, the only student in the entire academy to graduate early this year. A smile of quiet pride graced her face. She had every reason to be proud, she graduated at the same age most children were only just beginning. Not only that, but she did so after just 1 year of training. Naturally, word had spread throughout the village about the young Namikaze's achievement. Moments later, a Chunin instructor entered the classroom and began reading out the team assignments. Naruko listened passively, until her name caught her attention. Namikaze Naruko, the Chunin announced, due to an unexpected situation, the third Hokage has decided to assign you to a special team consisting of 1 Jonin and 1 Chunin. You're to meet them at Training Ground 28. With that, and after the instructor finished reading all placements, Naruko used the body flicker technique to swiftly exit the academy, ready for her next step as a young kunoichi of the leaf. Training Ground 28. As Naruko stepped into Training Ground 28, she noticed two individuals practicing in a clearing. Curious, the blonde Jinan took a seat beneath a nearby tree to quietly observe. From her viewpoint, one of them was dressed in the standard Jonin uniform, which included a long-sleeved blue shirt and matching pants. He had short black hair and dark eyes. What stood out most to Naruko was the familiar Uchiha crest proudly displayed on the back of his Jonin vest. The second person appeared younger than the first. He had deep onyx eyes with noticeable tear troughs beneath them. His hair was jet black, tied back into a low ponytail, and his face was framed by straight bangs that parted in the center and reached his chin. He wore a black shirt adorned with the Uchiha clan symbol on the back, tan pants, and black sandals, with bandages wrapped around his ankles and a weapons pouch strapped to his back. A few minutes later, the two finished their friendly spar and turned toward Naruko. "Namikaze Naruko?" asked the older one, prompting Naruko to give a confident nod. "Then I believe introductions are in order," he said with a friendly smile. "My name is Uchiha Shisui, and I am 11 years old. I've held the rank of Jonin for the past 3 months. I enjoy Dengo and productive training sessions. I'm not fond of disloyalty. My hobbies include sparring with my best friend, Itachi," said Shisui, before gesturing toward the younger boy beside him. "My name is Uchiha Itachi, and I'm 8 years old. I became a Chunin 3 weeks ago. I enjoy sparring, onigiri, cabbage, and dango. I'm not a fan of steak or betrayal. My hobbies are training and visiting traditional Japanese tea houses," Itachi said calmly. "My name is Namikaze Naruko. I've been a Jinan for 1 day. I like ramen, playing shogi, and training. I'm not very fond of unnecessary attention, and I don't enjoy playing Go. My main hobby is training," said the blonde girl with determination in her voice. "Great, now that introductions are done, how about a quick sparring match to get a feel for each other's abilities?" Shisui offered with an encouraging smile. "After that, we can work on some team formations for the rest of the week. Sound good?" The two younger ninja nodded in agreement. "Before we begin, what kind of ninja are you, Naruko?" "I specialize in kenjutsu and ninjutsu. My genjutsu is solid, though my taijutsu could use some work. My chakra affinity is fire, and I'm also skilled with wind nature," Shisui explained. "I'm proficient in taijutsu and ninjutsu, and I frequently use kunai in close-range combat. My chakra affinities are lightning and water. I'm also capable with genjutsu, though I haven't trained in kenjutsu. Additionally, I've been studying Fuinjutsu. I'm currently at level 4 out of 10, Naruko explained, turning toward Itachi. "What about you, Itachi-san?" "I'm a specialist in genjutsu and shuriken jutsu. I'm also well versed in ninjutsu and fluent in taijutsu, although I haven't trained in kenjutsu either. My chakra affinities are wind and lightning," he replied. "So, how about a light spar, Naruko and Itachi?" Shisui suggested playfully. "Just keep it friendly," he added, smiling as the two walked to the center of the clearing. They created some space between each other and waited for the signal. "Begin," Shisui called out. The two charged at each other, meeting in the middle with their forearms clashing. Itachi grabbed Naruko's left fist, and the two struggled briefly for dominance. Naruko quickly dropped to the ground, aiming a sweep kick at Itachi's legs. Itachi jumped over the attack and, upon landing, launched a spinning kick. Naruko blocked it, countering with a right hook to Itachi's chin that connected, catching the young Uchiha off guard. Stumbling back slightly, Itachi activated his Sharingan, a single tomoe spinning in each eye. "I can't underestimate her," he thought, leaping back just as Naruko's roundhouse kick passed inches from his head. In midair, Itachi quickly formed hand seals. "Fire style, great fireball jutsu," he announced, releasing a fiery sphere toward Naruko. Reacting swiftly, Naruko began her own hand signs. Water style, water wall jutsu. She responded. A shield of water formed from the moisture in the air, rising just in time to intercept the incoming fireball. The resulting impact created a dense mist, momentarily obscuring Naruko's vision. Using the cover of the fog, Itachi moved in from Naruko's left, landing a quick strike that turned her head slightly. Just as he was about to follow up, another Naruko appeared behind him, kunai in hand. A clone. He realized, eyes wide. Spinning quickly, he blocked the attack with his own kunai, but the clone transformed into a burst of lightning upon contact, briefly stunning him. Before he could recover, the original Naruko delivered a solid kick to his back, sending him sliding across the ground. Watching from a distance, Shisui gave a low whistle. Impressive tactics, he thought, clearly impressed by Naruko's quick thinking and coordination. As the younger of the two Uchiha siblings stood up, he formed a single-hand seal. When Naruko attempted to charge toward him, she was suddenly stopped as vines emerged from the ground, gently wrapping around her and halting her movement. She glanced toward Itachi, only to see the older boy disperse into a flock of crows that soared toward her. A genjutsu. She realized, quickly biting her lip to break free from the illusion. Just in time, the crows transformed into a flurry of shuriken. Naruko swiftly performed a substitution technique, replacing herself with a wooden log. She reappeared at a distance and scanned the area, trying to locate Itachi's hiding spot. However, she paused as she felt the cool touch of metal against her neck and heard Itachi's calm voice behind her. "Time to yield," he said gently, prompting Naruko to let out a small sigh and acknowledge her defeat with a nod. "That was an impressive match," Shisui commented as he approached the two young shinobi. "You both have remarkable skill, truly fitting of the title prodigy. Now that we've had a glimpse of your abilities, let's go grab some lunch and discuss our team strategies and formations," he added with a friendly smile. With that, the three new teammates left the training field together, ready to bond and grow stronger as a team. 1 month had passed since the formation of Team Shisui, or as the residents of Konoha affectionately referred to them, Team Prodigy. The nickname was well earned, as all three members were exceptionally talented in their respective areas of expertise. For Naruko, it was taijutsu, fuinjutsu, and ninjutsu. For Itachi, genjutsu and shurikenjutsu were her strengths. For Shisui, it was kenjutsu and ninjutsu that set him apart. Over the past month, while the trio trained diligently, word of this remarkable team spread far, even reaching the village hidden in the mist, known for its secluded nature among the 5 great hidden villages. But was it really surprising? After all, a team made entirely of prodigies is a rare sight. Adding to their reputation was the fact that 2 of them hailed from the Uchiha clan, while the third, Naruko, was the daughter of the 4th Hokage, a legacy that naturally drew attention. During their first week together, the team focused on joint training and developing a variety of tactical formations for different kinds of missions. At the same time, they each continued to train independently, honing their skills and helping each other grow stronger through collaboration. In the second week, they began undertaking D-rank missions, allowing Naruko to gain hands-on experience and build her readiness for more complex tasks. Much of that week was spent learning the basics of teamwork through community service and foundational assignments. By the third week, the team was trusted with simple C-rank missions, most of which were similar in difficulty to D-rank tasks but took place beyond the village borders. These outings gave them a taste of the broader shinobi world and allowed them to apply their training in new environments. During the fourth week, they continued with C-rank missions. This time, however, they were given an assignment that required conflict resolution. Their task involved helping a nearby village that had been troubled by a group of disruptive individuals. It was Naruko's first real experience with managing a challenging situation in the field, and she handled it with maturity and a strong sense of responsibility. Flashback. Team Shisui waited quietly in the bushes, carefully observing the camp filled with rogue individuals. They remained still, waiting for the perfect moment to take action. Shisui turned to look at his 2 teammates. "All right, remember what I said earlier. Stay close, support one another, And be alert. We know there are about 60 of them, but there's always the possibility of a missing nin or a few trained samurai. Better to stay cautious, the Jonin whispered, receiving nods from both younger members of his squad. How do we approach? Asked Itachi, his Sharingan already activated, just like Shisui's. The older Uchiha paused for a moment before responding. We'll go with Formation D. The mission stated we need to neutralize all threats in the area, Shisui reminded them calmly. After a few more minutes of careful observation, Shisui gave a nod to Naruko, who swiftly performed a series of hand signs before taking a deep breath. Suten, water platform. Naruko released a stream of water that spread beneath the camp, forming a controlled layer of water that remained unnoticed. Just as it formed, Shisui began his own set of hand signs. Megan, false surrounding illusion, he said softly, cloaking the water with an illusion that made it invisible to anyone within the camp. They then turned to Itachi, who had just completed his sequence. Raiten, lightning current. Itachi announced, gently placing his hand on the water. His chakra flowed through it, sending a mild electric pulse that disrupted the movements of the people in the camp. The technique resulted in a wave of startled shouts and confusion. Let's move. Shisui called out as the trio launched from their hiding place. By the time they reached the edge of the camp, the group inside had begun to recover faster than expected. Clearly, they were more experienced than anticipated. As they advanced, two opponents rushed toward them. Shisui calmly blocked with his tanto, redirecting his opponent's movements with precision and care. Naruko followed up by throwing a single shuriken, which struck with perfect accuracy, disarming the second attacker. Moments later, three more individuals with wooden training swords charged from the left. I'll handle them, said Itachi, beginning another sequence of hand signs. As they got closer, he exhaled a large orb of flame into the air, not to harm, but to disorient, creating a wall of fire that made the attackers retreat and lose focus. Naruko and Shisui encountered a group of bold bandits who made the mistake of challenging them. Together, they handled the situation swiftly and efficiently. Just as they were about to regroup with Itachi, they had to leap away as three sharp spikes of earth suddenly erupted from the ground beneath them. They turned toward the origin of the attack and spotted a man holding a kunai, wearing a confident smirk. Well, look who we have here, the stranger said. Shisui narrowed his eyes in recognition. Ryusa Huro, a B-ranked missing nin from Iwagakure, Shisui said calmly, readying himself. Huro's smirk widened, clearly pleased at being recognized. I don't know who you are, but this young one must be the daughter of the Yellow Flash, Huro said, stepping forward. Naruko, you handle the remaining bandits. I'll take care of him, Shisui instructed. Naruko gave a nod, her expression focused and determined. Do you really think you can stand up to me, youngster? The missing nin shouted before charging at Shisui with a single kunai. As the older shinobi closed in, Shisui adopted a defensive stance, effortlessly blocking the first strike. He sidestepped the follow-up thrust, rolled away as Huro attempted a forceful overhead kick, and ducked under a spinning strike. Spotting a brief opening, Shisui thrust his tanto forward, aiming for Huro's center. However, Huro deflected the strike and quickly moved inside Shisui's guard. With a swift motion, Huro delivered an upward strike to Shisui's torso. But just as the move connected, Shisui vanished in a burst of speed, surprising the attacker. Huro suddenly heard Shisui's voice behind him. Shunshine no Jutsu. As Huro attempted to turn, a sharp pain pulsed through his side. He glanced down in shock to see the tip of Shisui's tanto pressing firmly against him. Unbelievable, Huro whispered, eyes wide as he took in the moment. Shisui calmly withdrew his blade and murmured under his breath. This is what happens when a Chunin underestimates a Jonin. He was just about to rejoin the battle when his instincts flared in warning. He spun around to see a bandit charging toward him with a katana, shouting in defiance. Shisui braced himself, but before he could react, a kunai whizzed past him and struck the attacker with pinpoint precision, neutralizing the threat. Shisui turned toward the source of the kunai and saw Itachi standing with his arm extended, having just thrown the weapon. The two shinobi exchanged a nod of mutual understanding before joining the rest of their team to secure the area. Flashback end. Now we find our three talented young ninjas walking toward the Hokage's office. The Sandaime Hokage had personally requested a meeting with them regarding their next mission, which was unusual since they typically received assignments from the mission distribution room. As the group made their way through the lively streets of Konoha, Naruko turned to her teammates with curiosity. "Hey, Itachi, Shisui, do you have any idea what kind of mission the Sandaime might want to give us?" she asked as they approached the Hokage Tower. "Honestly, I'm not sure," Shisui replied thoughtfully. "But if he's calling us in directly, it must be something significant." Itachi nodded in agreement, showing he shared the same thoughts. Soon, the trio entered the Hokage's office and waited respectfully for their leader to speak. "Good morning, everyone," greeted the elderly Hokage from behind his desk, which was as always stacked with paperwork. "Good morning, Hokage-sama," the three young shinobi responded in unison, their tone polite and respectful. The Hokage raised an eyebrow, then offered a small, amused smile. "Please, have a seat. There are a few matters we need to discuss," Hiruzen said warmly. A few moments later, the three were seated comfortably across from him, each with a steaming cup of tea now in hand. "As you know, word about your team has been spreading throughout the village and beyond. Interestingly, while your skills have impressed many, people seem even more intrigued by your unique backgrounds. Because of that, a number of clients have expressed interest in hiring your team. They're eager to see just how capable you truly are," the third Hokage explained. Team Shisui nodded, acknowledging the weight of his words. Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle quietly as he observed the three young ninja listening intently, patiently waiting for him to continue without interrupting. "I have an important mission for the three of you, an A-ranked assignment," the Hokage stated with a serious tone. "Ordinarily, I wouldn't assign a mission of this level to Jinan, or even most Chunin. However, I trust in your capabilities. Do you accept?" The three young ninja exchanged brief glances before turning back to the Sandaime with confident expressions. "Yes, Hokage-sama," they responded in unison, prompting a few quiet chuckles from the Anbu guards stationed around the room. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow, slightly amused that his elite protectors found the moment entertaining. Clearing his throat, the Sandaime retrieved a scroll from his desk and handed it to Shisui. "Your mission is to meet the Kazekage, his daughter, and their escort team at the border. You are to ensure their safe and smooth arrival to Konoha. Are there any questions?" he asked, taking a sip from his tea. "With respect, Hokage-sama," Itachi began, "how many escorts will the Kazekage be traveling with?" "The Kazekage will be accompanied by 4 highly skilled shinobi with abilities on par with Anbu," Hiruzen replied. "And what is the purpose of the Kazekage's visit? Should we prepare for any potential threats?" Shisui inquired. "The Kazekage is coming to discuss the terms of a new alliance treaty, as well as matters concerning the upcoming Chunin exams," the Hokage explained. "While I don't anticipate trouble, there's always the possibility of encountering a rogue ninja who might challenge you or seek to interfere. Though unlikely, some might attempt to cause disruptions for political or personal reasons." "What about the daughter?" Naruko asked curiously, drawing everyone's attention. She tilted her head slightly, trying to hide a faint blush. "That's also part of our intel," she added quickly, causing the others to smile, and Shisui to let out a soft laugh. "Her name is Sabaku no Tamari, the Kazekage's eldest child. She's around 5 years old and will be observing how diplomatic matters are handled," Hiruzen answered. With that, he dismissed the team, who quickly used the Shunshine technique to vanish from the room and reappear outside. The Kazekage and his team should arrive at the border in 2 days. Go home and pack for a week-long assignment. We'll meet at the village gate in 30 minutes and travel at a moderate pace. If everything goes according to plan, we'll have time to rest before their arrival, Shisui instructed. With nods of agreement, the team dispersed. 2 days later, border of the Land of Wind and the Land of Fire. Team Shisui had just finished a quick breakfast and was en route to the designated meeting location. As they stepped into the clearing, they waited patiently for a few minutes until a horse-drawn carriage appeared, led by a shinobi in Anbu attire. 3 others flanked the carriage, 1 on each side and 1 at the rear. The group came to a halt, and the front Anbu stepped into the center of the clearing, as did Shisui. The Uchiha unrolled the mission scroll and handed it to the Anbu leader, who inspected and read its contents thoroughly before returning it with a nod of acknowledgement. My codename is Taka. I lead Team Alpha. These are Gamma, Tanuki, and Tokage. Kazekage-sama and Tamari-sama are currently inside the carriage, Taka introduced. Shisui responded with a respectful nod. I am Uchiha Shisui. With me are Uchiha Itachi and Namikaze Naruko. At that moment, the carriage door opened, and the Kazekage stepped out, followed closely by his daughter, Tamari. Upon seeing their leader before them, the 4 Anbu members immediately knelt in front of the Kazekage. Kazekage-sama. They greeted in unison. Team Shisui, recognizing the leader of Sunagakur, bowed respectfully to the elder figure, acknowledging his authority. So, the Hokage truly sent the team I requested for this mission. I wasn't entirely certain it would happen, but I'm glad to see it, Raza remarked. It's an honor to meet you, Kazekage-sama, Shisui responded politely, with Naruko and Itachi both nodding in agreement. The 4th Kazekage raised an eyebrow with mild interest. I've heard that you are the most outspoken among your team, Raza noted with a subtle smile, prompting Shisui to grin in response. You see, Kazekage-sama, we decided that only one person should lead the group. As the oldest and, for now, the most experienced member, I was chosen, the dark-haired Jonin explained respectfully, prompting the Kazekage to raise an eyebrow in curiosity. What do you mean by for now the most experienced, Shisui-san? The auburn-haired leader asked with interest. Well, Kazekage-sama, both Itachi and Naruko are learning at an incredible pace. I'd say in about 3 years, they may very well surpass me, the Sharingan user replied with a calm smile, surprising the leader of Sunagakur. He turned toward the young ninja. Itachi-san, Naruko-san, how old are you two? The Yondaime Kazekage asked, causing the children to glance at Shisui. When he nodded in approval, they answered. I am 8 years old, Kazekage-sama, Itachi responded first. I am 6 years old, Kazekage-sama, Naruko said politely, making the Sunagakur leader widen his eyes in surprise. She's only a year older than Tamari and she's already a Genin taking on high-level missions. Thought Raza, struggling to fully grasp how advanced someone so young could be. Before anyone could speak again, a young voice cut in. Father, he's no older than me. Why is he already a ninja while I'm not? Tamari asked as she looked up at the Kazekage, who paused to consider his words carefully. The reason she is a ninja at this age is because she's an exceptionally gifted individual, a prodigy that appears only once in a generation. And before you tell me that you're also a prodigy, I must let you know that Naruko is part of a team of other highly talented young ninja, and has been trained by her father, the 4th Hokage, Raza replied gently, keeping his eyes closed, though he could sense his daughter's competitive spirit flaring. So she thinks she's amazing because she's a prodigy? I'll show her I can be just as strong. Tamari thought, her eyes locked onto Naruko, who was starting to feel a little nervous under the intensity of the gaze. Well, we should get going if we want to reach Konoha by tomorrow morning, Shisui said with a polite nod. The Kazekage returned the gesture and walked back to his carriage with his daughter. The group then began their journey toward the Hidden Leaf Village at a steady and calm pace. 2 hours later. The group, composed of 1 civilian, 1 Genin, 1 Chunin, 1 Jonin, 4 Anbu, and 1 Kage, had been traveling through the serene forest of the Land of Fire for about 2 hours. The journey was mostly quiet, occasionally interrupted by brief updates from the Anbu. Now, with their formation adjusted due to increased numbers, Naruko was walking at the front while Shisui and Itachi kept a watchful eye from behind. The 4 Anbu had spread out, 2 positioned on each side of the carriage. Gamma and Tanuki patrolled the left, while Tokage and Taka took the right. Although the surroundings were peaceful, Naruko couldn't shake a strange, uneasy feeling. She couldn't explain it, only that something didn't feel quite right. Time passed, and the sense of tension continued to grow, though the forest remained quiet. The only sounds were the soft steps of the horse, her teammates, and the Anbu. But then Naruko realized, there were too many footsteps. Just as she was about to speak, a sudden flurry of kunai flew from the shadows, catching the Anbu completely off guard. They reacted too slowly. Suddenly, 4 figures appeared in front of the carriage, prompting the 3 young shinobi to immediately shift their attention toward them. It was quickly noticeable that each of them wore a /Wagakur forehead protector, marking them as former members of the Hidden Stone. "What is your purpose here?" Naruko asked firmly, stepping forward and drawing 2 kunai while taking a calm yet prepared stance. Her confident demeanor only caused the Iwa nin to smirk in amusement. She was soon flanked by Shisui, who had his tanto drawn, and Itachi, who held a single kunai. Together, they formed a defensive formation. The apparent leader of the group stepped forward with a mocking grin. "Normally, I'd give you a long explanation," he said with a shrug, "but let's just say you've reached the end of the road." With a swift motion, he performed a sequence of hand signs, causing the 3 Konoha shinobi to remain on high alert. Upon completing the technique, he pressed both palms to the ground and called out, "Earth style, rising stone spikes." Massive stone pillars erupted from the earth with incredible speed, catching the team off guard. Before they could react, the jutsu surrounded them in a stunning display of power and precision. From within the carriage, Tamari gasped in shock as the scene unfolded. Raza immediately stepped forward, ready to protect the others. So much for a quiet and peaceful journey, he thought with a tense expression, bracing for what came next. Alright guys, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching, more awesome stuff coming soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Much love, Anime Octopus.